Some time ago, I was asked to pray over a little child who, still at the age of 4, doesn't answer to her name. To answer a call, even actually higher animals tend to answer to their name. Do we answer when we are called? Remember how it was when her name was called that the Magdalene realized who was there. There are probably some in this assembly who are being called by name. Things being as they are in assemblies of this kind are fairly intense because of the amount of faith, prayer and grace in the air. Good families praying and transmitting the faith. A young average age. Therefore it is a favourable time and place for the Lord to utter that name. Will we be present to that call? A vocation, my friends, happens on 2 levels. There is the interior that is usually picked up not in noisy moments, but moments of encounter, especially sacramental, when there's a stillness in the soul which gives a favourable space. At that moment, the Lord can make use of a word from a book, sacred scripture itself, a sermon actually, and meditating thereupon, and one can believe or not believe that the Lord is present in the air, and that one has a kairos, a moment that can change time and its course before one. One can at that point already be saying, like our Blessed Lady, let it be, without which the Lord is not Lord, we are still. That is the interior part. It can be favoured also by places that we go to. There can be a favourable space in a beautiful liturgy. Music in particular has an effect on the soul. So does powerful preaching. And so it is not indifferent where we spend our time when we're young, because the chances are that that kind of event will not happen in a disco or in a pub. And so already we are in control in potentiality with our future existence by the choice on a daily level of who we spend our time with. In French, dis-moi qui tu hontes, et je te dirai qui tu es. Tell me whom you hold, who you hang around with, and I'll tell you who you are. And so the choice of friends is not indifferent in youth. Don't waste youth being forced to do things you don't want to do, really. But then there is the objective. A call has to be authenticated. If, down the line, a young man or a young woman responds to what is being picked up, then there is an authentication going to take place somewhere along the line, when in the name of God, that is going to be stamped, accepted in the name of the Church. A major superior has the power to orientate life. It's actually a huge responsibility. Moreover, there is a continuous process of interference from another source all along the line. First of all, before making sure that that opportunity is not there, people are distracted. And then also also, should they say yes, the demon is not absent from places of formation. He will do this. He will use one of two classical ploys. One is to look around, for instance, the community that he might be in, and to see, is there a weak link there? Excellent, I found one, says the demon, and he'll use that weak link, the fragile member or members, to make it difficult for the other one who might be genuinely called to not carry on, to get discouraged for secondary reasons. It doesn't matter what they are, as long as it stops the process. Another one would be this. In souls genuinely wanting perfection, because he's failing with the immediate and the obvious, he'll use the more subtle. At key moments, he'll present a great and glorious carrot before the mind's eye. You can go to a more holy state of life. You can go to a more strict order. You can do more good elsewhere. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it stops what's there. He's got him out. And that's where a certain flair, a discernment of spirits comes in on behalf of God who's trying to warn the candidate through experience what not to do. But there are also key moments in which directly we, and I mean by this not necessarily the clergy or nuns, but we as human beings can be the voice of Christ and propose. One can, as a parent, present the reality of the option. It's not indifferent either, and it certainly shouldn't be discouraged should it come up. And for that to happen, one needs to be divorced from the current mode of thinking which discourages, and to indicate here we have precisely that battle coming to the fore. The devil hates vocation. It's come out in exorcism that he can't bear those places where young girls, young virgins go in and hide themselves in obscurity, pure as angels. He just can't bear it. And also, we know exactly what he's at with regard to the priesthood. He's very active in seminaries, and he knows that if he can't stop them all together, he can do his best to make sure that what happens in a place of formation is also doing partly his work, transmitting messages which will produce the kind of person that he wants. I'll tell you a story. When I'd gone back to theology in Bangor, it wasn't clear what to do. So I was in contact with the bishop who would confirm me. He spoke Welsh, and he was still bishop. But it needed references. The idiot I was asked for references from people who had strange views. So, more or less, this was what came out. I simplify. He's doing too much praying to be a priest. So, I had to look for another option. As it happens, my spiritual father was the one of the three who wrote favourably to the bishop wanting ordination back in Wales. He spoke Welsh. We were at the Welsh Mass in Gillingham, and I was in the car with him, ready to go to what we had every month afterwards, the Word of Life of Caribbean, Focolare, in Welsh of course. And there, in the car, between Mass and the house and a cup of tea, where we had the Word of Life, he pulled out of his pocket a letter. A letter which took me by surprise. A letter which had potentially the power to change all future history. And he said to me that he'd written, am I knowing it, to the Norbertines, Tensions in Ireland, not far from where we are, in the Cross. And he explained why. I think he's reading and at least you get ordained. So I read this letter, and it was from Kilnacront, of which I'd never heard, from the novice master, whom I'd never heard. He was now dead. He was quite young at the time, J. Cusack. And in the letter was this: Father Abbott actually is in Wales in the month of August. He was filling in for a priest I knew in Cardiff, who was from a family near Kilnacront. So, eventually I got back, and I was at home, and I think I'd gone to church or somewhere, and my mother picked up the phone in my absence, and certain Father Smith had phoned. It was the abbot, and he was down in Cardiff, and I was to phone him back. So I did, and we arranged to meet. As it happened, I was going down anyway for a charismatic session, and he was actually a bit of a shock to the system. Here we had, I could see, a man who actually cared, was humanly kind, and was obviously a good pastor. I could see that from things that he was saying and doing. He didn't make a huge fuss or bother. He just said this, and he was clever. We have an ordination on the 7th of September. Come over for it. He fixed it, so I landed there just in time, and Brother Thomas was ordained. That was not indifferent. The following day, we had the first Mass, and he preached at it. And here I saw the power of a sermon. He always preached well. He always had some visual aid, a story, which he was good at getting from somewhere. And he got to the end of his sermon with just this, which rang in the air. It was a quotation from St. Norbert. Priest of God, what are you? You are nothing. You are everything. A shiver went down my spine. That word came through him from Jesus. The following day, I was deeply in meditation, and what was coming to me was this. It actually happened before the Blessed Sacrament, which was exposed. From demonstrance, without hearing anything, there was an impulse which came. I am here. Why look any further? So all it meant was saying, fiat. The rest would happen. As it happens, against my control, things went out of control in the Abbey when I was there, when I was in Rome, and I was changed to Italy very quickly, but that's a different story. It worked insofar as it got to Rome, formation, and I remember at one point, when it came to first vows, the abbot received my vows. He was in his mitre on his abbatial throne there in the Abbey, and he was there, and after I'd written the vows down, and in my obedience in his hands, he said, while I was still on my knees, you will study, you will be a priest. And again, that shiver came down. The power of Jesus coming through the abbot, through the church, to an ordinary human being, who all he had to do was say simply, fiat. My friends, especially any males here, who might be being worked upon by divine grace, if you feel a tingle, it's not just human. The Lord uses the emotions. The Lord uses everything, including even a letter out of a priest's pocket. Anything that'll work. What God wants is a priest forever, and the devil knows it. Remember, all eternity with a priesthood stamped on your soul is one thing. To go close to it and not get it, or to come back after getting it, is another. I conclude with this. In the Middle Ages, there was one of the greatest saints in Europe, on her sick bed where she did everything, in Schiedam in Holland, Lidwien. She had all the gifts, and she suffered as a victim soul. She knew things and saw things. Her young brother died. She saw over him, as they were burying him, a chalice, but it was upside down. He had a vocation. He was very pious, but a girl came along and took his heart. My friends, nothing can compare with the love of Jesus. Nothing can compare with the joy of being with him. Nothing can compare with borrowing your voice box. This is my body. I absolve. I baptize. These are moments in which heaven and earth meet, and heaven uses earth. The priesthood is the necessary channel, the bridge between heaven and earth. And if anyone here feels or knows of a possibility, take it seriously, but be careful where you go, because the devil will do his level best